Welcome back to Cheche, live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. I'm Udwaka Mimo, along with the panelists Mutegi Njau and David Makali. Koigi Wamwere is our guest today. And before the break, we were talking about your sacrifice for the country. Some people may not know that you've been in detention, at least 3 times. You've been tortured, that your mother was among the women who camped at Uhuru Park demanding your release and the release of other political detainees. But the question that we were asking was, there's frustration with those of you who fought for multi-party Kenya, because once you came into power, you proved to be as rotten as rotten. I was trying to be generous, but I couldn't come up with a word. As the people you were trying to oust.
First of all, let me say this, that it would be unfair to judge all reformers on the performance of our current coalition government. Because this coalition government is a government of both reformers and the people who supported dictatorship then, and who, I believe, still believe in a lot of what they practiced then. If they could get a full opportunity, I think they would take us back there. If you look at the power shared, I have a feeling that the Kibaki side of the coalition has actually more power than the Raila side. But I will also admit that I think, and this is something that we could not have seen then, that all reformers were not of the same hue. That it is quite possible that while our entry point into the struggle then was based on a belief that what this country needed most was transformation and not inclusion of people fighting for change into the system, that indeed, after getting the opportunity to make a contribution, that some of us have failed. Okay. But not everyone has failed. Not every reformer has failed. But some of us still believe that we need politics without dictatorship, that we need economics without theft or corruption, and we need to have a system, a society that is based not on capitalism, but on social democracy, so that it will be able to give everybody. Yes.
You became an assistant minister for information. What did you do? You got yourself a radio station. Why do you need a radio station, Mr. Koigi?
You don't even know whether this radio station is mine or not.
It is yours. People associated with you. Are you denying it's yours?
No, the fact that people associate me with so many things doesn't mean that those things must belong.
Are you saying categorically that radio is not yours?
I'm not. I'm only wondering why you are so categorical and why you should jump. But the point is this. Yes, I was an assistant minister in Kibaki's government. But if you remember, and I hope you do, and are honest, you will admit that in fact I was one of those assistant ministers that complained that as assistant ministers we had absolutely no contribution to make to the running of the government. We were excluded. Yes. The only thing we were expected to do is to go to parliament and vote with the government, against which we sometimes voted against, especially when we realized how we are being misused. Yep. I am associated with a radio station, and I think that has absolutely nothing to do with my belief in reform. Okay. As a reformer, would I not be allowed to work for media?
What is the purpose for that radio?
It's to educate people and to champion the same dream that we fought for. That's what the radio does. Tries to educate the people within our reach against the disease of negative ethnicity. We try to advocate for a system that is not jungle, as we currently happen to have. It is really, we educate more people with the radio than any other radio that I know.
Somebody speaking
that's why this radio should be national and not regional.
So somebody's speaking to that, Alan in Nairobi, who says that while you were the assistant minister, you forced KBC to toe the government line and thwarted its efforts for independence, which speaks again to your...
That is not true. What I did, and I will do it again and again, I believe that any country needs a public broadcaster. That public broadcaster must do some education work that a commercial radio cannot be asked to do. For that purpose, you cannot have, and it is not fair that you should have a public broadcaster that is also censoring the government, making it impossible for the government to tell people what it must tell people as a government of the people.
I don't think so.
Now, this idea that a public broadcaster should be exactly like Royal Media, or should it be like The Nation, or should it be like KTN, it's misplaced. And I'm saying that despite the fact that I'm now in the media. The same mistakes that I saw the media make when I was in the ministry, I see the media repeat today.
Koigi,
censoring, making sure that the only thing that the media allows to come out is what the players in the media believe in. This is wrong.
Koigi.
Okay. David?
Koigi, I don't know
I see Mutegi is shaking his head.
Absolutely.
How can you disagree that you censor people when you should not be censoring people?
Why are you here then?
Especially
if we censor people, why are you here?
Having fought so hard for media, to be quite honest, I thought that we would end the culture of censorship. Now we have self-censorship by media that is sometimes worse than government censorship.
Mr. Wamwere, David has a question for you.
Yeah, Koigi, you have to listen to our questions as well, because otherwise we will not agree here.
Oh, you shut me up.
Yes, we'll censor you right here. Anyway, the question is this, Koigi. I mean, do you really have any belief in the independence of the press and independence of the media? One, because KBC had an editorial board. You, as assistant minister, were delivering edicts on what they should and shouldn't do, interfering in the editorial independence of KBC, even though it was already pro-government.
To be quite honest, Mr. Makali, if you know how many times I was defied by KBC.
Of course, they had to defy you.
Yeah, rightly
they should have done so more.
But the fact that they could defy is proof that, in fact, they were not as censored as you claim they were.
If you are
in fact, it should be KBC arguing, not you arguing on their behalf.
Obviously.
Because obviously
if Koigi was minister,
it would have been worse.
Fortunately for us, you are not a minister. Because you would have clamped it down.
If I had become a minister, you would be celebrating my being a minister every year's media. You would be so happy you not
let me say this.
Look, I was in Scandinavia. I saw those countries with the beautiful public broadcasters. I have experience. Listen, I have experience.
Public does not mean government.
I have experience of VOA. We all know how VOA works. We all know how BBC works. And for you to tell me, let me give you an incident. For instance, when people were beating the drums of ethnic war that we actually experienced later during the elections,
yes,
I tried to persuade KBC to show Kenyans pictures like Hotel Rwanda, this time in April. I was trying to tell them, we need to forewarn Kenyans against what they are agitating for. And did you know KBC refused to do that?
Because it was inappropriate.
What are you saying?
That at
what
the
are you
height
saying?
Of the conflict.
In fact, if we had shown those films, probably we would not have had the post-election violence.
Koigi.
But because KBC would not agree. Yes, what do you mean you don't get it?
The violence,
what do you mean you don't get it?
The violence erupted within a very short time.
BBC, yes, they're publicly
we are warning people against an oncoming train. We are saying genocide is coming.
So you saw it coming? And you saw the post-election violence coming before it happened?
Yes, we did. We did.
How did you see it?
And we even warned
you never warned anybody.
What do you mean? We did.
You
don't know that we did. Whom are you supposed to warn? Makali? Or to warn the president?
The public.
We want...
You are a politician, assistant minister for information. You saw it coming.
That is precisely what I was trying to do with the KBC, to warn the public. But some guys in KBC who are totally convinced that KBC, there was no difference between a public broadcaster and a commercial media house, defied, and they said people should be left to themselves. Let us propagate this ethnic hate, and to hell with the country.
All right, let's say...
I think we were right, to be quite honest.
Okay,
Muteginjawa, unless you don't want to be honest.
No. Koigi.
If you had allowed us to do what was our job, we would have saved this country from post-election violence. But that did not happen, precisely because of the clamor from media houses.
Koigi, I don't think I don't want to. Let me just point out this. Why I don't agree with you that KBC would have shown Hotel Rwanda and those films that about the post-election, I mean the genocide before the elections is doubtful for this reason. Elections were held on violence broke out on the 30th. In between there was no evidence. There was violence.
Let me
there
tell
was
you,
electioneering
now I want to tell you.
So you wanted
the
KBC
post-election
to show violence
was born out of campaigns that were based on ethnic hate. Those campaigns started even during the referendum, and then they continued after the referendum. Those of us who were far-sighted could see that indeed that post-election violence was coming. It had to come. It had to come. There is no way you can fan the fires, the flames of negative ethnicity, and expect that there will be no violence coming from it. And you see now, having seen that, and we could see that probably more clearly than the people like Makali who were out of the government. We had intelligence reports, and we knew, I know the president was
Wamwere,
even told of this, and the Mr. Gishangi has said as much in public.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, had KBC played the role it should have played as a custodian of public safety and interests, then probably we will not have had the chaos we got, at least not to the same scale.
How do you blame the platform when, if you say that in your far-sightedness you saw what was coming, and several people did, several reports have said, as you have rightly pointed out, that there was no standing down of tensions after the referendum. You're a politician, you're in the government, you have several platforms within which you can engage the public.
Why
did you not use them?
Use
how do you say
no?
How do you
justify
the fact that KBC is doing its own thing to say that we therefore cannot communicate with them?
Because you know we are not just friends. I'm saying that we were unable to use KBC as we wanted to use it.
Why? So what did you use as an alternative?
We were not able. We had post-election violence.
Did you put out ads in the
were not as
papers?
effective
Did you start a
campaign? as we wanted it to be. And the fact is that media, especially private media, were some of the people who agitated against any government action that could have helped to stem those chaos. That's the point that I'm making. And for Makali to argue that people, that the people who have reason enough to suspect that chaos can come should not show the public films like Hotel Rwanda, I think you are terribly mistaken.
I don't agree.
Listen. Right now, we have been warned that unless we do something drastic, that we could have a repeat of the same chaos. And now, if you go by your argument, you will again take the position that a media house like KBC should not show the people of this country Hotel Rwanda. Why should people not be shown the consequences of their action? How else do you stop them from traveling that path of possible violence?
I think
I think that the media is you seem to be lost.
I think we need to move this discussion a little out of that discussion about the KBC and post-election violence. Whether Koigi was right or not, they had intelligence, they did nothing.
Of course
I know for fact that
Koigi, how did you expect us, Makali, to do something when in fact you were arguing against our use of KBC?
Can I explain?
Yes.
Koigi, before NAC came to power, one of the biggest problems they had under Kanu was Kanu's use of KBC.
Misuse, not use. Misuse.
How would we then allow another government to take over the same grip of KBC Governments have various uses for stations. KBC could have been manipulated for whatever reasons. If they were getting edicts from people like you, how many other people are giving it edicts? Secondly, don't we have an editorial board at KBC that could make decisions? And if there was a problem, why didn't you change the management of KBC, the board of directors, the editorial management, to give it independence to do a job rather than give instructions daily from outside?
That's my beef with him. Why micromanage KBC? You are supposed to provide policy.
Nobody micromanage.
That's exactly what you
okay.
said. If you are going to tell them,
I just told you, you know, what the Hotel Rwanda was part of an educational program against the ideology, the spread of the ideology of negative ethnicity. We believed that it was KBC's job to forewarn this country against politics of, against
answer Makali's question.
That
about edicts from outside instead of setting up the board to make it run.
Yeah. The fact that you, in fact, at that time, the management of KBC was in the process of change. And you must, if you know anything about what was happening, you will agree with this. But that does not mean, because you have changed the management, the government cannot make any suggestion about a particular action that can help the country. That would be very strange kind of reasoning.
Fair.
And several viewers are agreeing with him, because if I remember correctly, I think MPs were taken to Rwanda to see the consequences.
Aftermath. This is after 2007.
No, precisely because private media preached against any further action by the government. There's nothing we could do.
All right.
Because people like Makali would jump on our necks and say, no, what we are doing is, we know that KBC had been abused before. But now we had a change situation where we had private media that could ably compete with government media. But some people in private media seem to have sort of concluded that the only way they could prosper and make headway is by killing KBC.
All right, let's leave it at that, Koigi. But let me ask you a final question regarding your own involvement in the media, which Mutegi asked, but you dodged. You say that you are associated with a radio station. Yes. It's not about association.
He said he's owned it.
Yes, it has to be categorical. You own a station.
Is there anything that
no. What is important here is what says about... Wait, let me finish. What is important here is that, Koigi, there are hundreds of people who had made applications for licenses to broadcast. You, as Assistant Minister for Information, when you were there, allocated yourself a frequency to broadcast a station in your constituency. How is that for your democratic credentials?
To be quite honest, and I don't think that we should be discussing my private business.
No.
Let me say this.
Public interest.
At the time, you're a public official.
Yes, but I want to say this. I only came to the ownership of Sauti ya Mwananchi long after I had left the ministry. And I got it from another individual.
Well.
Yes, you don't want that?
Fine.
Okay.
You don't want that explanation? Because you are working from a point of belief. Yeah. You want to crucify Koigi.
I mean,
and he must be crucified, whatever the facts say.
That is not sustainable.
Whatever the facts say, we must crucify.
How independent are the media?
The radio station, Sauti ya Mwananchi, is one of the radio stations doing a perfect job in this country.
According to what you are telling the media people there to do.
No, of course I don't. What do you mean? How do you know that? How do you know that?
The same way you telling KBC.
Right.
I'm part of the management of the media. We have an editorial board. We sit, we discuss what to do, what not to do. That's how you run all the
all right. Okay. So we have to we have to take a break.
I wouldn't want to work in this station.
Let me tell you. If I ran Sauti ya Mwananchi the way you are suggesting now, it will not last 1 year.
I think
we have to take a break. Mr. Commercial, we have to take Mr. Wamwere.
Revoke it because I'm not Kenyan. Revoke it because I didn't fight for this freedom. Revoke it because I must die for Makali to live. What are you saying?
All right, kill their mics. We have to go on a break. Don't forget that if you have any questions or comments for Koigi Wamwere, the SMS number is 2442 and the Twitter handle is Cheche_TV. Still ahead, more on the Kenya that Koigi Wamwere wants.